So, welcome everybody. Thanks for joining. Today, we're going to talk to you about driving in Ohio, and this is specifically for international students. There have been some changes in Ohio law regarding licensing and the requirements to obtain it. So, we want to make sure we go over that with you and make sure you're legal to drive on the open road. So we are the lawyers for Ohio State students. Student Legal Services is a nonprofit law office. We contract with Ohio State to provide legal services, representation, legal advice, education, and resources to Ohio State students specifically. Additionally, we are confidential and judgment free, so we are not mandatory reporters. Our services are covered by attorney-client privilege. And SLS is not a university department. None of our staff are university employees. So what that means is we can't share your information, can't share information about you to others unless you give us permission to do so. And our main goal, our mission is to just reduce barriers to academic success by providing you all high quality, low cost legal advice and representation. So our office here in Columbus in Franklin County, that's where we practice. We do have reciprocity benefits, however, with other student legal services in Ohio, Kent State, Bowling Green, Wright State, OU, and Toledo. So if, let's say, you're driving to OU to visit a friend and you get a traffic ticket there, we would be able to refer you to OU for potential representation to handle that ticket, and vice versa. If you have a friend who has an issue here in Franklin County, they could get a referral from their university, their SLS office, and then potentially we could represent them as well. So while our office specifically focuses on Franklin County, there are some pockets in Ohio where you could get representation from another SLS office. So why do students need lawyers? Well, there's a lot of issues that students face that are legal related, and we assist with those legal issues. So majority of those include landlord-tenant, security deposits, repair issues, civil matters like debt collection, credit debt, identity theft, consumer issues, employment. We also do civil matters, some simple estate planning, healthcare power of attorney, wills, financial power of attorney. What I focus on the criminal defense team is criminal and traffic. So we represent students who are given traffic tickets, who are charged with misdemeanor crimes. And we also have notary services at our office. So any documents that you would need notarized, definitely come see us. We're happy to take care of that for you. Multiple ways you can get a hold of us. We are located right off campus at 20 East 11th Avenue. You can email us, call us, text us. You can absolutely follow us on social media. We do post relevant information on there that is timely for you all, specifically including scams or if there are any updates in the law like there has been recently regarding traffic. Okay, so main thing we're going to talk about today is getting a driver's license. You must have one if you want to drive legally in Ohio. So an international driver's license is not a valid license here in Ohio. You can't drive on an international license. You can drive on your home country license, but only for 30 days. So once you move here, the Ohio BMV has established that you are a resident of Ohio once you've been here for 30 days. And so that means you have to get an Ohio license and you would not be able to drive on your home country license anymore. If you want to drive in Ohio and you're not a US citizen, you'll be required to get what's called a limited term license or what's called a non-renewable, non-transferable driver's license. That's going to probably be the vast majority of people will have to get that limited term non-renewal, and they will have to complete several steps in order to get their license, which I'll go over next. But unless you meet one of those limited exceptions that I'll also go over, you're first going to have to get a temporary permit. That's the first step, and complete some other requirements before you're able to get that full driver's license. You'll want to study to get your temporary permit. They're first going to test you on the laws, driving laws here in Ohio, and you'll also be required to take a vision exam. So the exceptions to those who have to, if you don't if you are getting a license and you're not a US citizen and you don't have a license from another US state, you're going through the process of getting that temporary permit. However, if you have a valid unexpired license that's from another US state, then you can do what's called an out-of-state conversion. So you transfer the license to Ohio without having to get that temporary permit, and without having to complete the new driver training requirements or the driver exam. So let's say that you completed your undergraduate in Indiana and you're coming here for your master's, you have a valid Indiana license. You'll be able to go to an Ohio DMV, ask for that out-of-state conversion, and they will just convert it over and you'll be able to get that full Ohio driver's license. It will still be a limited term, non-transferable, but you won't have to go through the process of all those training requirements. Additionally, if you're 21 years old or older and have a valid unexpired license that's from one of the countries listed there, Canada, Germany, France, Japan, Taiwan, and South Korea, then you're also exempt from those training requirements. You'll be able to present your home country license, show that, and then they will issue you an Ohio non-transferable. So, what is the process? Well, step one is to get that temporary permit. If this is for those seeking that license for the first time, you'll apply for an Ohio temporary permit through the Bureau of Motor Vehicles. You can go to that website listed here. They have multiple locations. You're able to download a little study guide, the Ohio Motor Digest, which goes through everything that you'll need to know in order to drive and to get the process started. So you can study for that and then go take that test. I believe you can do it online as well as in person, but then that starts that process and gets you the temporary permit. The next step, once you have that permit, is to complete driver training. So this is all the stuff that you'll have to do in order to get that full driver's license. So the first would be 24 hours of online driver education. That cost is about $50 depending on where you go. And then 8 hours of in-vehicle instruction. So that you will do with a certified driving school. So an instructor from that school will be doing that 8-hour in-vehicle instruction. And this is the priciest part. It's around $600. You might be able to get it a little cheaper depending on where you go, but in general, that's pretty much how much it's going to cost. Certainly a list there of how to find a local driving school or online course. Like I said, multiple locations for you. Find the best deal, and go with the place that you think is going to do a good job for you. Third step, after you do those steps there, is to complete 50 hours of practice driving. So that means you have your temporary permit, you're driving, and you have a licensed driver in the car with you. And that person has to be at least 21 years old. So that person has to be with you anytime that you drive. You cannot just drive on your temporary permit without someone else in the vehicle with you who has a license. So those 50 hours of practice driving will occur with that person. There's got to be 50 total hours. 10 of those have to be driving at nighttime. Once that's complete, you'll have a form, which is BMV Form 5791, which is an affidavit that needs to be notarized, that essentially attests to you completing that 50 hours of practice driving. And it's the person that does the practice driving with you, that's the person who signs that form. Now, again, we do notary services at our office. That person, is more than welcome to come at our office and we can get that form notarized for you. And the last step will be to take your driver's test. You'll schedule that with the BMV. You'll have to bring proof that you completed all the that certificate for the 24-hour online class, the certificate from the 8-hour driving instruction, and then, of course, that notarized 50-hour affidavit. You should also note that your driver's license expiration date will be the same expiration as your I-20. So to keep your license valid, you have to renew that I-20 before it expires, and then take your new one to the BMV in order to renew that license. All right, so those were all the steps you needed to get your driver's license, but there's still some other stuff you need to do and to have before you're able to drive legally in Ohio, and that would be car insurance. So you must have it whenever you drive, no exceptions. That means if you're driving your own car, you must be covered under a policy. If you're driving a friend's car or a rental car or any car, you must have an insurance policy covering you to drive that vehicle. If you are caught driving without insurance, you could be, your license could be suspended and you could receive traffic tickets. It's not a good thing to have your license suspended, so make sure you always have car insurance. Ohio law does have a minimum in terms of car insurance, and that's liability only. What that means is insurance that you would pay, that they would pay to someone else, their damages if you were at fault for the accident. We recommend that you obtain more than just that minimum liability insurance. And that's because liability only doesn't cover you, your car, your property, your medical bills. It's not enough to cover your expenses. So we recommend that you buy insurance, a comprehensible policy, buy it with a reputable insurance agent. Don't just find a policy online. Make some calls, find a good rate, and make sure you have that minimum. Again, we recommend the comprehensive policy that covers not just your car, but also the other person's car, damages, and of course, medical bills. All right, next we're going to talk about some traffic laws. These are all things that you're going to be learning when you take your driver's test, things you should know, signs, obligations, speed limits, all of that. You have to obey all traffic laws at all times. So it's your responsibility to know those traffic laws, right? So you have to abide by them all the time, which means you should know what you need to do. It's not a legal defense to a traffic ticket that you didn't know the law. Like, oh, I didn't know that I couldn't, park in this spot, or I didn't know I couldn't drive this way on this road. The police and the court don't care if you don't know the law because you already have a duty and an obligation to know it. So if you say, oh, I didn't see the speeding sign, I just didn't know what the speed was, and they get you for speeding, again, not a legal defense that you just didn't know what the speed was or you didn't know what the law was. So make sure you're keeping yourself informed. Make sure you know all the traffic laws so that you can abide by them and avoid tickets. All right, traffic accidents. So certain things that you need to do if you have been involved in an accident. Hopefully none of that will happen to you. But if so, got some information for you that you need to know. You have to give your contact information and your car insurance information to the other driver before you leave the scene. So if you hit a parked car, let's say no one's there, what do you do if you hit a parked car? You leave your information like on the windshield, somewhere that the owner will be able to see it. And again, that'll be your information. Contact information, insurance information. If you don't give your information and you leave the scene, even if you were well-intentioned and say, oh, I hit this parked car, I don't have a pen and paper with me, I'll just go home, grab something, and I'll come back. That technically is a hit-skip violation. It's regardless of why you left the scene, if you leave the scene without giving your information, they could charge you with a hit-skip violation. So keep paper and pen in your car for that reason. Have it there ready to go. If you don't have any paper and pen when you get into the car accident, call a friend, call somebody to bring you a piece of paper. Don't leave the scene without giving your information. You don't want to face any license suspension issues, fines, and all of that would relate to a hit skip. But let's say you didn't leave your information, and let's say you did get a ticket. Now what? Now what do we do? Well, first and foremost, do not pay the ticket without speaking to us first. Traffic charges can carry pretty significant penalties, including financial sanctions, including jail, points, all on your license. Obviously, your insurance would probably increase if you're found guilty or you plead guilty of that. So come to speak with us first. We want to make sure that you know all of your rights. We want to make sure that everything's in order, that you're protected, and of course that you get the best outcome on your case. So please make an appointment with us. Don't pay the ticket without talking to us. If you do, that closes the case, which means I won't be able to help you out with it. That means the case would be over. So don't pay it. Come talk to us. So student legal services attorneys can represent you in many courts in Franklin County. Like I said, here, our office here in Columbus, we practice in Franklin County. There's a bunch of mayor's courts, as you can see here, within Franklin County. Yes, we can represent you at those mayor's courts. If you receive a ticket that's outside of Franklin County, still make an appointment, still come see us. Again, we can absolutely still give you advice, and we might be able to give you a referral to one of those other student legal services offices. All right, so now you have everything you need to drive. You know the law, you know what you need to do. The next up, you need a car. So buying a used car and new car, pretty much most of it is the same. A new car, obviously, if it's brand new, probably not a lot of people have drove it, but in general, do not buy the first car you see. Do some research, take your time, figure out what would be the best vehicle for me on campus. If you haven't noticed, there's not a lot of parking around campus, and if there is, it's a general kind of a small spot, so you might not want to get, an 8-passenger van. Do your research, and additionally, don't take the first offer from the salesman. You should certainly be negotiating, probably negotiating down, obviously, but don't just buy the first car that you see with the first person you talk to at the first dealership you went to. Take your time with it, do some research, and absolutely test drive the vehicle. So you want to figure out, okay, can I handle this car? Can I drive this car? Does it feel good when I drive it? Test drive it, make sure it's the right fit for you. It's a big investment. It's a big price usually, so take your time with that. I also recommend that you check the car history report. You can do that through Carfax.com. So what that will do is it'll tell you if that car has ever been in an accident, or if it's ever been in a flood or hail damage. So you can get an idea of, okay, will I maybe have issues in the future with this car? A car that has a clean report, that doesn't have any accidents, that's going to be the car you want. You can also check the suggested retail value, kbb.com. This will help you when you do go to negotiate with the salesman. You'll have an idea of, okay, this car is this year, this make, this model, hasn't been in an accident. This is about how much that car would sell for on the market. Then you'll kind of know what price you're looking for from the salesman. So if they say something that's far off from what the KBB is saying, and there's not some other reason that why that would be, maybe it wouldn't be best to buy that car, go to dealership number 2 and see what they're offering. Finally, in particular, if it's a used car, you should take it to a mechanic for inspection. So we can certainly all trust that, the salesperson is selling you the vehicle and they've told you everything about that vehicle, anything that's wrong with it. But it's no thing to just take it to a mechanic shop, have them do an inspection to make sure there are no serious issues or any issues that the salesperson did not disclose to you. Again, that will give you a better idea of how much is this car worth. If it needs new tires and needs a bunch of work and you don't have a lot of cash to do that, then that might not be the car that you'll want to buy. So let's say you want to transfer ownership of a used vehicle. Let's say you're selling your car, someone's buying it from you. The seller has to complete the assignment of ownership portion on the back of the car title, and have the signatures notarized. So then the seller does all of that first, then they present it to the buyer to finalize that transfer with the Ohio BMV. All right, next up, we're going to talk about parking. Parking in Columbus, like I said, seems to be available less and less. And because of that, we see more restrictions on where you can park and when, whether you need a pass. Make sure you're paying very close attention to parking signs and parking restrictions. They do street sweeping around campus, which means they clean the road and everyone has to have their car off of it. And if it's not off the road by a certain time listed on the sign, then they're going to tow your vehicle. Pay close attention to those signs. Make sure you're parking in a spot that isn't, right in front of somebody's driveway or right in front of a fire hydrant. Make sure your car is legally parked, because honestly, the City of Columbus heavily patrols the campus area for parking violations. So you're very likely you'd get a ticket if you're parked illegally in any way. Additionally, if you pay for parking at school, at the university, or at an off-campus house with a landlord, make sure you display that parking pass at all times to avoid being towed. Those tow trucks don't know if you live there or not. They're gonna want to see a pass in your windshield, hanging on your rear view, or wherever your landlord tells you to put it, so that you don't get your car towed. It actually happened to me once. Wasn't good.
So the first question is, what if I do the driving practice with multiple people? So I would do 20 hours with one person and 30 hours with another. Do I need two affidavits or can I only do it with one person?
That's a great question. You can only do it with one person. So only one person can be your practice driver for that 50 hours, and they have to be the one to sign the affidavit, unless that person is your parent.
And what does that mean if it was
If
your
you have
parent?
a parent or legal guardian, then that person can sign on their behalf, or well, sign it and say, I'm attesting to me driving it, and I'm attesting to, her dad that she drove 50 hours with, or her uncle who she drove 20 hours with.
Correct. But most of the international students that are in this situation would not have that. So,
That's correct. Yeah,
yeah,
vast
the
majority of you
majority.
won't have that, and it would have to be one person.
Okay. The next one is, must the 50 hours of driving be done after completing the 24-hour online education and 8 hours in person, or can it be done concurrently with doing those other requirements?
It's my understanding that you can do it concurrently.
That's mine as well. What if my visa has expired but my I-20 is still active? Can I go through the process of getting a driver's license? And I have verified that yes, you can. If you have an unexpired I-20 and an expired visa, provided that you still have a valid passport and I-94. Should the 50-hour affidavit be signed before or after the time log is filled? You fill out the time log and you complete that to the 50 hours, and then you will complete the affidavit, but you do not have the person sign it until they are in front of a notary. So if you guys are doing these and you need someone to notarize it, you can schedule an appointment. And even if you're the person who is attesting to your 50 hours is not a student, we will still do that notary for you. But you have to bring them into our office because we're notarizing their signature, not yours. So you fill out that log and then you bring in the person with the affidavit. Can you buy a car on a temporary permit? And the answer to that is yes, you can buy a car with a temporary permit and get that car registered. But remember, if you're on a temporary permit, you have to have somebody over the age of 21 with you driving. When you come back and you're driving the car that you just bought, you still have to have somebody in the car with you that's a licensed driver over the age of 21. Can you do the 50-hour test drive with a friend, Aaron?
Yes, you can do it with a friend so long as your friend has a valid Ohio driver's license and they are at least 21 years old.
I also wanted to just bring up too, when you're talking about having on your temporary permit and you're having a person who's over the age of 21 and is a licensed driver, they also cannot be intoxicated. So you can't have someone who's been drinking who is with you because they're supposed to be sober and able to help you out while you're on your temporary permit. With an Ohio license, can I drive in two other states? Aaron?
Yes, absolutely. We're here to help. Reach out to us. We have our website. You can call us, text us, stop off at our office. You can email us. Absolutely follow us on social media. Like I said, we post a lot of great stuff on there as well, for you guys, and to stay up to date on new changes in the law, and keep you guys connected. Like I said, here to help. We'd love to see you all. So thank you so much for joining us.